It's time for some spring cleaning. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For Paws in a Book. I make bookish videos over here on my little corner of the internet. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. This past weekend I redid all of my shelves. I added some new shelves. I reorganized everything and I literally took every single book off of my shelves. And doing so, I found books that I wanted to get rid of. So it's time to do an unhaul. We have 60 plus books here and we're just gonna get into it. I'm not gonna talk a lot about each book just because that would take forever, but most of these books will be listed on Pango. My Patreons do get early access to this video, so I'm not promising everything will be here when you see this, but you know, go ahead and take a look. I'm also a Pango affiliate, so I do have a discount code. If you are new to Pango and you're in the United States, you can use this code down below and you can get, I think it's $5 off of your first order, I believe, if I remember correctly. But all the information is going to be linked down below in the description, so do with that as you will. I do have these broken up into genres, so let's just do that. I have piles. There's so many books here. Fine. First up, I have a couple of historicals. The first one is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This was part of my Unhaul project and I didn't read it, so I have to unhaul it. The other one from that video is also in here. I just didn't want to read it. Like I kind of did, but kind of didn't, and I just never got around to it, and so that's the rules. If you don't read it in 30 days, it's gotta go, and I didn't read it in 30 days, so it's gonna go. I have Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. This was a book that was in the top 20 of the Goodreads Choice Awards for fantasy, but not the top 10, so I didn't end up reading it, and it's not one that I necessarily really want to read. I just picked it up because I found it really cheap during the top 20, and I was like, well, I might have to end up reading it, and I'm not really going to now. Greek mythology retellings in their like natural form is not necessarily my favorite thing. I realize that I'm saying it with like Dark Olympus series sitting right behind me, that there's a very big difference between like a natural setting, original setting, and that. This is not going to be the book for me. And then I'm on Unhaul Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. I loved Beartown, but I don't want to finish the series. The third book in the series is so long, and this just it's not my style of book anymore. I said I was gonna not talk, and I am. I have a few thrillers, not very many actually. The Perfect Mother by Amy Milloy. I don't even know what this is. I think I found it at a thrift store. Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. I actually have read this one. I enjoyed it, but it's not something that I'm gonna reread. It's not something I'm gonna really talk about in videos and stuff like that. So I don't need to keep it on my shelf. The Marsh Queen by Virginia Hartman. This was part of an aardvark box that I did a promotion for, so I actually didn't get to pick the books that I would have, like, you know, for the promotion. They just sent me some, and this isn't one that I would have purchased, and I'm surprised it sat around this long. Then The Grimrose Girls was the other one that was in my Unhaul project this month, and I didn't read. So this is like Dark Academia, and I'm finding that they're Dark Academia and I like there's some that I like. It's very specific. Same thing, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I read this one last year, gave it 3.5 stars, something like that. It was fine, but I'm definitely not going to reread it. And then These Things Hidden by Heather Gutenkopf. I got this at a thrift store because I really liked The Overnight Guest by her, but this is like it's a bad looking copy. Like, this is just going to go in my little free library. This is a very old beat up copy. It's not going to go on Pango. All right, let's move on to romance. First off, right before I filmed this video, I watched Izzy's Romancelandia video, which if you're not subscribed to Izzy, please go do that. She's linked down below. And she talked about Lana Ferguson being a problematic author, and I was like, well, I have one of her books. I'm gonna take this one off the shelf. So this was like the last minute addition to, you know, make the random number of 61 books, not 60. I've also heard kind of just like mid things about this book specifically. I believe it was Chandler that just read this recently and didn't like it. And it was a lot of like, when you look at the blurb that says, this book is like if Allie Hazelwood and Tessa Bailey had a spicy baby. I don't really like either one of those authors, so why did I pick this book up? I don't know. And then I'm going to get rid of the Maverick Billionaires series. I, for some reason, have books 1, 4, 5, and 6, so I don't know. These came from a library sale, and they were in really good condition, but It's not a series that anyone's talking about. It's not a series that I'm super interested in. How old are they? Book 1 was published in 2015. So, I bet they probably don't hold up very well. They are also on KU. So if I wanted to read them, great. I'm going to Unhaul Happy Place by Emily Henry because I don't like Emily Henry. I don't think I'm gonna like this book because I hated this book. And I'm also gonna get rid of this one. I think we're probably done. Yeah, I think we're done. I'm also unhauling The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I liked this book. I gave it 5 stars. I don't know that I would nowadays. And it's not one that I'm going to reread. And then a couple books that I recently read and really didn't like. You Had Your Chance, Lee Burrows by Piper Rain. I gave this one like 2 stars. I read it during my like football romance weekend. It was not good. And then I just recently read No Rings Attached by Rachel Lacey. This one was not as good as the first one in the series. And it had some issues with ace representation and demi representation. Like one of our characters was demi / like probably aromantic. It's not on page, but like definitely like it was pretty clear, right? And like by the end it was like, oh, we have to fix her, and we're like, no, we don't need to do that. I'll talk more about it in my March wrap up, but it's gonna go away. Now I have a couple of sci-fi books. Ascension by Nicholas Benge. I actually DNF'd this book like 100 pages in. Was not a fan. It was so boring. There's a lot of tension. There should be a lot of tension in this book and there isn't. And then I'm going to unhaul the Hank Green series. One, they don't match, right? This is a book of the month book and then they didn't do a book of the month for the sequel, so they don't match, and I didn't like this one. So I'm just gonna let them go. And it's just gonna be a nice memory. All right, these aren't genre specific, but St. Martin's Press. Let's talk about them for a second. Because currently we are boycotting St. Martin's Press, and we are like on day 175, something like that, some crazy stupid number. St. Martin's Press would rather just pay for advertising than address the racist comments and issues with their diversity program. So that being said, I'm not reading those books because I can't read anything that I'm not making content for at this point in my life. And the books that I have read that are St. Martin's, I'm not going to be recommending them. I'm not going to be putting them on Instagram. So why are they taking up shelf space with their backs turned to me? Okay, there are some that I did keep that I really love, but these ones I'm parting with. Some of them I've read, some of them I have not. So the Casey McQuiston books, I'm not going to recommend these. The Finlay Donovan books, not going to recommend them. Also, I heard the new one sucks. And then the 2 that I hadn't read yet, Divine Rivals. Everyone was talking about this one last year. Not going to read it. Built to Last by Erin Hahn. I actually really feel sorry for this author because this author kind of got like attacked for no reason. The whole reason I bought the book in the first place was because some Christian blogger came up and was like, this book is too smutty. And you're like, yeah, it's a romance. That's the point. So that's why I bought the book. I was going to do a video on it. It didn't end up happening. But like now I'm not going to read it because I can't do anything for it. St. Martin's Press. Hi, if you're watching my video, not that you would be, but if you are, you want to come to the table? I'll leave more links from Readers for Accountability down below if you're interested in the boycott. But there we are. Moving on. I'm actually getting through this a lot faster than I thought I would be. I'm unhauling Godkiller. I just finished this and didn't love it. It was a generous 3 stars. I'm not a go on a journey type of girly. This is gonna hurt some people. I'm so sorry. I hope we can remain friends. But I am getting rid of most of the Schwab's books, including these. The Darker Shade of Magic series. I read the first one back in 2020 and have not felt the desire to read anymore. And then I read this one last year for the Goodreads and it was fine, but it did not make me want to get back into the world. And then I'm gonna unhaul her middle grade series. I like this series, however, there's a lot of references to Harry Potter in here just because like it was written prior to J.K. Rowling being an absolute turf, but it's because of that it's not something that I necessarily want to recommend on my channel, so I'm just gonna unhaul them. I'm also unhauling Venko by Cherie Demaline. This was another one that was in the top 20 of the Goodreads Choice Awards but not the top 10, so I didn't end up reading it. All right, the rest of the fantasy books. there's a lot here. Okay, first up we have Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. First, I don't like the mass market paperbacks. I'm not gonna read a mass market paperback, so I'm just gonna let it go. Marked by PC Cast. I was going to read this for a book club for a Polycon, and then I didn't read it when everybody else was. I didn't have time, ran out of time. I'm not gonna read it. Damsel by Evelyn Skye. This was my 200th book of last year. I did a whole single book vlog for it, and I actually really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. But then I watched the movie, and the movie was terrible, and now it makes me not love the book. I know that there are 2 separate things, but the movie was so bad that it tainted my enjoyment of the book. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I gave this 3 stars. It's fine. I don't think I'm gonna read the sequel though. I don't know. Maybe like on audio. I don't need to own them. I'm unhauling Nevermore and Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. It's another middle grade series. I ended up only having 1 shelf for middle grade, and it was a small shelf. So I'm not gonna reread these. I didn't love them. And then a fantasy romance, Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I think this is actually like a YA fantasy romance-ish thing. I think I got this at a thrift store, and it was just, it kind of sat on my shelf, and it sat on the shelf where books go to die. And so in the rearrange, it didn't make it. I'm gonna unhaul Chaos and Flame by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. I did enjoy this one. I will read the sequel, but I don't need to own these books. The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I enjoyed this one, but I heard the second one was not super great, and so I just didn't want to continue on with the series. And then a couple of YA fantasies that I know I'm not going to get to. Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. I've heard very mixed things about. And then Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. I was going to read this for a video post Amazing Readathon last year where I read like a lot of people's favorite books. The problem is that Divine Rivals was also on that list, and the boycott happened before I could get that video out, and so I didn't end up reading it, and I know it's not something I'm going to pick up on my own. I am finally going to let go of John Gwynn's books. I really, I DNF'd this one, but I was like, oh, it's a soft DNF. I'm going to come back to it. And that was 1.5 years ago, and I know that it's not going to happen. And this one, I even Cassidy DNF'd, so I know that I'm not going to like it. This is like a journey book. I don't like journey books. We've already discussed this. So I'm just gonna let them go. They take up a lot of space on my shelf that I don't have. Truth in Blue by Mirari Amel. Sorry, this was part of the Unplugged book box that I accidentally got. I have no idea what this book is, what it's about. I'm not gonna read it. I did a try a chapter video that will never see the light of day because I didn't actually finish it because it was a lot. It was entirely too much of a video. But there were 2 books that I read, or 2 first chapters that I read, that after the first chapter I was like, I do not care about these books in the slightest. That was Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I know this is gonna hurt some people. I think I actually have unhauled this one before, or maybe it's on this one might be on my self-destruct list. But after reading the first chapter I was like, I don't want to read this. Same with The Change by Kirsten Miller. These both are like urban fantasy, and the first chapter just takes place in a normal contemporary world, and that's not the type of fantasy I want to read. I'm also going to unhaul these Mark Lawrence books. I read the first one, and then I didn't get to the second one in time for the live show, but nobody at the live show liked this book, so I was like, why would I continue? Why am I going to continue this? Plus the third book is hard to find, and I'm just gonna unhaul them. We only have a couple more left. House of Dragons by Jessica Clueless. This is a book that I hauled recently, actually. I was going to do a dragon vlog, and so I thought this sounded really interesting. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, but YA. And then several people in the comments were like, hey, that author is kind of problematic and racist and not a great human. So I had to switch it out for the dragon vlog. And I'm just gonna unhaul it. The Woman Could Fly by Megan Giddings. This was a video that I was going to be doing for a TBR company chooses my TBR, and I gave them options, and then they sent me 3 books, and that was 1 year ago. And I read one of the books, didn't like it, and I still have the other one on my shelf. This one just does not sound like my type of fantasy. And then lastly, these 2 have just been scaring me just because I feel like they're just dude bro fantasy, and I don't love that. And they've just been kind of sitting on my shelf. So Spine of the Dragon by Kevin J. Anderson and The Starless Crown by James Rollins. I'm not going to pick them up because they're big, they're chunky, and I just associate them with dude bro fantasy. Those are the books that I'm unhauling. Don't try to save them in the comments. They will already be posted on Pango by the time you see this. In the comments below, let me know a book that you were really excited for and it turned out to be a really big disappointment and you didn't want it on your shelves anymore. And if you're not feeling chatty, do like a box, like a moving box emoji, some sort of like moving emoji. So, you know, I've got a bunch of boxes around me. That's all I have for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!